Robert Taylor, political columnist. Robert, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I think you'd be hard-pressed to say that we're in a better state now than we were when Labour got in on July the 4th of last year, wouldn't you?
Well, definitely. I mean, we had all those change posters behind Keir Starmer throughout that election campaign. And a lot of us said, well, we might get change, but it'll be change for the worse. And I think we've been proved right. We're a year on. The economy's got worse. Immigration has got worse. We've got all those strikes back. Everything seems to be getting worse, not better. So I think it was false advertising on behalf of Keir Starmer.
Yes. I mean, we keep finding these clips, and there's a myriad of them that we could play you. That one's particularly a new one, but it's very, very vociferous about being kicked out if you make things worse and leave the country in a bad state. So I think he should take his own medicine and disappear off the stage, shouldn't he?
He should, but I don't think there's much chance of that. It's possible that he might get kicked out by his own party.
Yeah.
Before the next election. I think the Tories and Reform will be hoping he doesn't, because I think that he's doing a good job in being a recruiting sergeant for opposition parties like Reform and the Tories. But I think we're going to have to wait till 2029 probably to get rid of Labour.
Yeah, interesting, because I mean, I've been of the opinion that some cataclysmic event will force them to have an election, and I mean they've come quite close to cataclysmic events, and I wonder whether migration is going to reach such a point with all the protests that are currently going on outside hotels up and down the country. With every week that passes, there's more of them. They're more peaceful as well, so they're not likely to sort of turn into anything nasty. And migration really is now the thing that's killing him inside his own party, isn't it?
Well, I think everyone realises that this is unsustainable, what's happening across the English Channel, and all this one in, one out. In theory, Mike, that could work, I think, because if 100% of migrants coming across the Channel knew that they were going to be returned, then very quickly that number would go down to zero. But the trouble is we're having this much trumpeted figure of we're going to send 100 migrants back, apparently. Well, 28,000 have come in already this year.
Yeah, right.
By my maths, that means one out and 280 in. What kind of disincentive is that?
Well, exactly right. And actually, my theory on the way this works is that more people will come to the French sort of coast, because they'll figure out that if they can prove that they've got some kind of connection to Britain, they could be one of the 100 people that gets to come as the replacement to the 100 that are going the other way. And in the end, it's still not actually one out for 280, because it's none out, actually, because what you've got is everybody who comes in and who gets taken out again is replaced by more people. So you still end up with 100 more people.
Indeed. And what we've seen actually since this policy was announced is that it has had no difference to the number of people trying to come across.
Yeah.
And I think that is because, Mike, a lot of people reckon it's such a soft policy. It shows that Britain is such a soft touch that actually the supposedly one in, one out, that is nothing of the sort, actually encourages people to come across thinking, well, the Brits aren't taking this seriously at all.
Right, exactly. And they've still got a pretty good chance of making it through the system into a hotel. I mean, I mentioned this quite a lot. You know, after they announced the one in, one out scheme, which was around about the beginning of first week of August, but that very first weekend, when they claimed to have detained some people, they didn't tell us how many. They're now saying it's 100, but I don't know. The TikTok migrant, you might remember from the front page of The Sun, he was a guy that came in on the Saturday afternoon, and by Sunday afternoon he was ensconced in the Crown Plaza Hotel at Heathrow. So he wasn't detained. They didn't stop him.
No, and this is what the message that's going to all these migrants is, that if you come across, there is almost virtually no chance of being sent back. You get a nice warm welcome, so it's worth risking your life going across the Channel. And by the way, I think that is an important point, Mike, that we are encouraging people to risk their lives across the Channel.
Right.
And when they drown, as many of them have over the last few years, I wonder if those people with migrants welcome posters, they got blood on their hands.
Well, I think they have. And you know, for a long time, the Tory government was saying that anyone who encourages it is actually, you know, encouraging death and encouraging horrible things to happen to people, particularly the weaker people, because what seems to happen now is that it's women, perhaps very rarely, who are on these boats, but it's the women and the children who are the ones that suffer. I mean, there's pictures on the front pages this morning of a couple of parents carrying a child, one in the water. I mean, for me, that's child abuse. You know, you're literally taking your your own child, putting your child's life in danger. Although I would say that these boats are now a lot safer than they used to be, you know, and the times when they do capsize and terrible deaths occur are fewer and fewer.
They are, and that's obviously to be welcomed, because no one wants anyone to overturn in the channel and least of all lose their lives. That's awful. But that is the risk that people are taking, and it's the risk we encourage them to take, with all these people going around saying migrants welcome, and human rights lawyers saying we'll do the business for you if you can just get to the UK. If you get to our shores, we'll help you. Well, that just encourages people to take that horrible journey.
But we've now got an interesting situation where you've got Nigel Farage making a speech this morning, writing the Telegraph as well, saying that we've got to do away with the ECHR, other conventions as well. They're going to pass a bill, if they get into power, the Illegal Migration Mass Deportations Bill, where he would do what Tony Abbott did in Australia, which is to say to anyone who comes illegally, you will never get asylum in this country, and there is absolutely no point in you coming, we'll deport you straight away. Similar things being said by David Blunkett, former Home Secretary, in the last Labour, or in one of the last Labour governments.
Yeah, and I think what all these people recognise, including, I think to be fair to them, the last Tory government knew that we needed a deterrent. That was what Rwanda was all about. You cannot smash the gangs, because there will always be other gangs. If there is millions of pounds on offer to get people to come across the channel, there will always be criminals there ready to make that buck and ready to facilitate that journey. So the only way to stop this is to deter the migrants for spending the money in the first place. And Ascension Island, we've heard Nigel Farage talk about an Ascension Island detention centre, or a centre where these migrants will be applied. I can tell you, I've been to Ascension Island. It's a barren rock, thousands of miles in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It is the last place on earth anyone will want to go to. I reckon that would be some kind of deterrent.
Yeah, because the only thing on it, as far as I can tell, is a runway, isn't it?
There's a runway, there's a cafe, and there's a sort of couple of restaurants and hotels where weird people go on holiday. But I can promise you, you would not want to be detained there.
As long as you weren't one of them, that's all right. What do you make of this Angela Rayner story? Because it carries on for sort of day 3 today. Council tax due on Angela Rayner's Grace and Favour home in central London is being paid by the public. There's a bit of a debate going on here as to how Angela Rayner's managed to amass all of this money to get, 2 homes that she can own herself, and third, getting the Grace and Favour home. Of course, she's entitled to the Grace and Favour home. We get that. But one of the things that's being questioned is whether it's her main residence. We had a caller who actually left me a voice note before and said, oh, I think it's fair enough that it's not her main residence, because if she loses the job, then it's not, she doesn't live there anymore. But surely while she is Deputy Prime Minister and living in Admiralty Arch, that is her main residence. It's where she works most of the time. And surely she should then be paying her own council tax.
Well, of course, it's her main residence. She's based in London. She's the Deputy PM. She's got a huge ministerial role. She's based in London.
Right.
We all know that. It's absolutely nonsense to suggest she's not based in London. And this is very reminiscent, of course, of the expenses scandal from 15 years ago, when MPs were flipping and all the rest of it. And they got into terrible trouble over it. But Angela Rayner seems to be able to get away with this sort of stuff. She had some sort of scandal before the election, didn't she, about houses and who.
Well, there was the 2 houses that she had, and whether she actually lived in one or whether she lived in 2, and it was all very mysterious. But it all kind of went away because there's a phalanx of people who jump up and say, oh, you're just having a go at her because she's a strong working class woman, and everybody goes, oh, better not do that then. But that's really, really double standards in my view. If you're a politician, I treat you exactly the same whether you're a woman or a man, or working class or upper class or middle class, I don't care. You know, you're on the public purse, you should be behaving yourself.
Well, of course you should. And I think maybe she was emboldened by what happened before the last election and thinks, well, I can get away with stuff. You know, ultimately, my standing is so high in the Labour Party that they'll never get rid of me. The public don't seem to mind that much. I can get away with it. But I think she has questions to answer, particularly, how does she get all this money to have 3 homes?
Well, exactly. And also, for those people trying to get a mortgage at the moment, people will be slightly surprised, I think, that given her salary, she's able to, and I don't know the circumstances, it could be that she's got a co-signer or something like that, I don't know. But, you know, to get what looks like an approximate £700,000 mortgage on a salary of around about 130,000, that's quite a lot.
It certainly is a lot. I don't know how the maths work out for her. Maybe she feels it's private, it's up. But when you are
Yeah,
the
but it's not
deputy
private,
prime
is it? Because
minister,
it's our money.
exactly. When you are the deputy prime minister, I think people have a right to know this kind of thing, especially when you're cracking down on other people with their
Right.
mortgages and their homes. And we're about to have a budget, which I apparently is going to take more money out of homeowners. Well, let's see.
Yeah, exactly right. What do you make of the other story in the front of the Telegraph today about peers who fail to turn up and participate in the House of Lords will be forced to resign? You know, there's been many. It's a bit like the civil service reforms, isn't it? Everybody tries to reform the House of Lords and never quite manages it. They're going to put a retirement age of 80 in, which would affect about 200 members immediately. I can't see how this is going to work either, because people quite often will go to the House of Lords, sign in, and then have a bit of lunch and leave.
Yeah, I think the least they can do is turn up. I mean, it's a love to be a lord. I mean, I don't actually know any lords personally, but I imagine it's the most wonderful club to belong to.
Yeah.
The most wonderful privilege. I think the least you can do if you're going to be a lord is to actually turn up and do your job. If they don't, I think, well, let's see how fining, if it's a fine they get. Let's see how that works and if it actually encourages them to do the job.
Yeah, yeah. No, listen. I'm somebody who is rather in favour of a sort of second chamber, which is elected rather than a House of Lords. But I was saying earlier, I think one of the things they should stop doing is just continually nominating people. They should just draw a line under it for a while and just go, do you know what? For the next 5 years, we're not going to nominate anybody else to put them in there because there's already too many people. There's about 800 people in there now.
There are indeed, and well, we've heard for a long time that many members of the Labour Party are in favour of completely reforming the House of Lords.
Well, they were until they got into power.
Exactly, and that is always the thing with Labour. They're in favour of proportional representation until they get a massive landslide themselves.
Right.
Same with reforming the House of Lords. It suits them to keep it at the moment because they can appoint who they like to the House of Lords. So there's a bit of hypocrisy going on there, I think, Mike.
Yeah, there is, absolutely. Robert, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. We'll leave it there. Robert Taylor, political columnist.